Welcome to Dinner at the Rectory. I'm Father Tim, and I'm joined once again with Father Mike. We come together for a monthly conversation about things we're reflecting on, reading, thinking about. This month, we are discussing the question, how do I become more involved in my parish? There was a couple years ago at my previous parish, and I've told you about this story before, Father Mike, but a probably 20-something-year-old guy came up to me after Mass, and he asked me a very fair question. He and his girlfriend had been becoming more active and really reading the Bible more, praying more, and had been really coming towards Christ and wanting to live their life in Christ more vibrantly. And he was like, Father, how can I become more involved in the parish? What can I do? And in the moment, I had no good answer for him.
And you walked away sad.
He did.
Yeah, this is a slight variation on Jesus and the rich man, the young rich man in Mark's gospel. Man comes up to him, what must I do? Well, what can I do? Is the person asking at the parish, and we don't want them to walk away sad because there's nothing for them, because we know there always is. And it's a moment that bears some consideration and some thought. So the person, if they're walking away sad, it's because there's too much to do.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's, it takes more out of them than they expected rather than, then because Father had fumbled the answer.
Yeah, I would prefer to not be the obstacle, right? It's one thing, yes, our faith can challenge us, our religion can challenge us. I might not be able to do particular things, but I'd rather that be it than me. I actually don't know how to help you right now. And I see there's a good, but I want to be able to do that and not be like, sorry.
Come back later?
Yeah. Come back again another time.
Yeah, pray about it. Yeah, the Areopagus.
Yeah.
Know? And there's something there too to voice this of, the pastor, the priest, whoever's there at the end of Mass, he doesn't always have all the answers or know the full story. And so to try to give some background and some kind of broader things to understand so the laity can be properly empowered, but then for you are seeking to be able to come well prepared, well armed, so you can then help the priest to help you to get involved, right? Because that's it. There's kind of a shared mission here, which of course we're going to end up we're talking about today, but we can both kind of know our roles, and that allows us to then be able to do this more smoothly.
Yeah. Well, I think that shared mission is an important first principle that we need to keep in mind, because we can often look at the parish as a mere transactional entity where they provide sacred services, religious services, as like a company would provide other kind of services. And you go and you receive services from them. Father is supposed to be able to provide services, and they don't have that service for you. Well, then, we can easily think maybe I should go to another parish to see if they provide those services, or another Christian community, or insert any number of things when we get into this service model. When in reality, the parish is a community. That's in some ways a cliche because we talk about that all the time. But a community, in some ways, there's a common work. There's a common thing that binds us together. And just as much as Father's job is to help navigate that, the faithful, the laity in the parish have a role in surfacing things to do and giving those gifts and those talents to the community, to the parish.
Well, that's it, right? There's something to the degree of, I was a chaplain for a lacrosse team, and one of the coaches made a comment one time when they got some new players in, right, who were very high quality. He's like, well, we just became better coaches. And there's some truth to this fact of if your players don't know what they're doing, right, well, you only do so much. But if the players are creative and skilled and able to kind of develop and come with new ideas, well, now you're directing some very people who those things come about, and new opportunities open up. And because you see what their gifts and talents are, it's like, well, now we can do something different here. We can do something more. And so often I have the privilege of being a pastor in out a parish where actually everyone's very good, but you kind of see if everybody's just kind of walking in and walking out the door, and if they don't see what they want, then they leave. Well, there's nothing, what can I do? But if you're able to see, oh, these people want this person wants that, these people have a gift for this and that, well, now we can actually start to coordinate those things together, start to get a game plan, if you will, build a strategy and some vision around what the gifts and talents of people are, now we can really do something special. And for the people in the pews to realize that, they're not just coming here and saying, well, where's, looking at the bulletin maybe and saying, well, what's there for me? But if you're not seeing something that's there that you want, to recognize like, yeah, you're a part of this. You're in this community, and there's not only just a opportunity, right? But we almost say like a responsibility. I think that's something that we see in the council documents is like the church is consisted of the baptized, and the baptized by their baptism. So if you're baptized, this is you, have a certain, in some ways, a responsibility there, but also like you have certain gifts to be able to bring those forth, to then add, and recognizing that we believe in the Holy Spirit, that God is not, these aren't accidents, that you're here in this community at this particular time. There's probably others who are also experiencing similar things, to use those gifts and talents to build up that community. And not just in a sense of like to have the best bingo in town, but to build the community for the glory of God and the furthering of the mission of the church. Which, like, if we're living that out, it's going to lead to fulfillment and joy and peace and those fruits that we love to see.
Well, it enables so much more to be done. I love that example with the lacrosse team, because you and I am currently teaching, you have taught, and we've experienced a similar sort of thing. When you get a classroom with even just a few students who are engaged and want to go for it, what you can do is just so much more than otherwise. And something I talk about that was when I'm talking about baptism is that we've already mentioned, it all starts with baptism and how we're made priest, prophet, and kings. And so we all have an obligation in a way to the goods of the parish, or at least looking after the welfare of the parish as royalty. We all have an obligation to preaching the word, witnessing to Christ as prophets, to offering prayer and petition and leading people to God and offering sacrifices in any number of ways. But when I bring that with my kids, they're like, wait, what are you talking about, Father? Like we have never heard this before. We've never heard there is another spirit, right? Like, what are you saying? But it's such a huge thing. It's like, no, like you've been from your baptism now have an obligation to building this up. And when we live out just as a base of our baptismal character before we get to other vocational characters that then are layered on top of that character, that just enables the parish to do so much more. And when there's not even that being lived out well, for whatever reason, like Father can be trying to do any number of things, but if no one shows up, it's just so hard to get the car started and get any momentum. And you get in something of a chicken or an egg problem. But all you need is like from the few people responding to the Spirit, a few of that leaven, and all of a sudden, like things can actually start changing. If we have hope in that, we have hope in God's continued action in us.
So looking at, diving into canon law, right? You see how there's certain privileges given, right? As this is the document that's given to govern how the church runs. And they have a certain thing in mind. And that's based off, council documents based off church's mind on how the local church ought to function, right? And some of the canons that it gives, I got two here. And one is, the Christian faithful are at liberty freely to found and direct associations for the purpose of charity or piety. And also, all Christian faithful have the duty and the right to work, so the divine message of salvation might reach all people. So this idea of like, one, this duty and this responsibility, but also the freedom. And I think sometimes there can be this hesitation of, and there's a bit of a tension, like, all right, I have this desire. I want to do something. But, there can be a paralysis of, can we jump into this? Do I need Father's approval? How much approval do I need? That sort of thing. And we're reflecting about this, about sometimes there's a real value to have the freedom to go for it. If you have a desire in your heart, start on it. And some things do need more approval and bigger, vision than others. But sometimes it's as simple as, all right, you want to serve the poor. Okay, well, we can get a whole group together and raise money and, St. Vincent de Paul Society, start a new bank account, that sort of thing. Oh, sure. But before we do that, what's the desire on the heart is to serve the poor, right? What's a simple grassroots way that takes no resources whatsoever to begin, and start there. build it out a little bit, see if there's any legs to that. Find some people, maybe they want to do that too. You can let the pastor know to communicate of, hey, is anybody interested in that sort of thing? Do you know anybody who's interested in that sort of thing? Okay, go for it. And that's an easier yes, but it's also an easier thing just to begin. And you're actually doing the real work that you want to be doing. Then you can see if it needs more logistics, and infrastructure to scale, right? And so there's value to that of that freedom to just start. And most parishes, if somebody comes forward and has certain things they'd like to get involved with, like we had somebody come forward, someone start an elderly ministry. It's like they're an elderly person themselves, a couple others. I can put a note in the bulletin, give you space, go for it. And they can just begin, And there's something to be said for things like that. But there's even a value to the informal of nothing stopping you from just reaching out to starting conversation with people and meeting up off-site for coffee to begin something, And having people over your house, that sort of thing. And so there's that real, to put the ball kind of back in the person's court of you have the freedom to do this. And any good pastor is also going to be able to see there's it's his responsibility in some way, or he has the responsibility to allow that. And we kind of see that also in the documents of the pastor's role is to kind of recognize and to foster those gifts and charisms. And so kind of that other kind of broad stroke, one, the laity has the freedom and the responsibility to develop those things. But then the pastor, his job is to encourage that. And so hopefully your pastor is able to, but he's not omniscient, he doesn't know everybody, but he's able to at least encourage that from the pulpit, but then also when somebody comes forward to start to recognize and understand what's happening and where are these gifts and talents and how can those be cultivated together. And there's a beautiful kind of give and take there.
Well, and the pastor then also helping to recognize is able to, because you have a greater perspective, as you're saying, on what's going on. So in the concrete sense, someone comes up and asks, Father, what can I do? I've been thinking about wanting to do more for the poor. And they say that, and well, actually, I know 3 other people, her over there, she just is doing that. So go talk to her, call her, and facilitate the communication, because you just have on the practical level, a greater vision of what's going on. But there's also at a time, the pastor is setting the spiritual vision, is setting the framework of how leading the parish towards something, how we're going to be going towards Christ. And it's very important, the theological, or why the pastor is leading the flock. Because often we can think, if I don't have a destination of where we're going, where do I start? What do I do? I can feel I should be doing something, but what is that like? And so with the pastor, when the pastor is leading the parish towards something and is preaching about any number of particular things and is setting that vision, then it empowers the laity, oh, okay, we're going in this direction. Well, how can I help moving in that direction?
Yeah.
And that's something that's that complementarity way you're leaning is there's a give and take, there's a both and there. And the pastor setting a good vision then really can help the laity to okay, what can I do? Well, Father's pointing this way. I can help go in that direction.
Yeah.
He set the field of play there.
And I think there's something worth here too of, I think we hinted this beginning of kind of the church shopping. Maybe we talked this, maybe it was before we started, but this idea of you're looking around and why you're not finding what you're looking for. Okay, well, there's some degree you might do that, say, with the priest. Does he have a vision? Do I like that vision? And maybe there's legitimate ground for that. But in most cases, he's going to have some direction he's going in. And there's probably some way to coordinate the desires that are in your heart with that vision that he's bringing about. And it might take a little bit of all right, he's all about, I don't know, Laudato Si and just loves the environment, and you really want to start a rosary group. And, well, how can you propose bringing that prayer element in a way that's also supports, his vision? And have some openness to that dialogue, right?
Mhm.
Because I do think that when we are able to approach the pastor with a degree of, say, charity, desire for unity, and hopefully the pastor is able to approach the people again with that same
Mhm.
charity, desire for unity, you're able to see, okay, the church is unified. That's the truth.
Mhm.
So these different desires that are welling up can come together, and to be able to find a common ground of, we'll pray the rosary in the garden or something,
Mhm.
and but stuff like that of the to recognize the pastor's vision, to see how can you contribute to that vision, which like might be spontaneous, it might be something you've been thinking about for a long time. Maybe you're moving from another parish and you had something you did, and to begin that conversation of how can you bring those two together,
Yeah.
or how can you add?
Yeah.
And I think there's something leading into that of part of that conversation, because it is any kind of community, it's a human relationship.
Mhm.
It takes trust,
Mhm. Mhm.
and to be willing to take the time to build the trust and to
Mhm.
let trust grow. And that's something which, it takes time and effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that relational aspect too is really important because we can project on the other. Like the pastor can project on his people can project on him and think, well, clearly they're not going to want to do X, or clearly he's not going to allow Y because of any number of like reasons.
Mhm.
And when we don't have a grounded relationship with the other person, we're more likely to make an error in that way. Or we might be right without the relationship that they're going to say no to it. But once they have a relationship with you, they're going to be more likely to say yes. Or you can think about like parents are going to say yes to their kids at times in ways that they would say no to any other kid that was going to ask them, because there's a very important relationship there. And if we're not known by the pastor, then it's going to be harder for him to trust. Well, who are you? You're asking to do these things, but like I don't know you. In theory, I might even be open to the idea, but there's not the relationship there. And then also the same that makes it harder for the pastor if people aren't making themselves known to him,
Mhm.
because like we can't force anyone to reveal their souls to us.
Right.
It's just in general in relationships, like we're dependent upon the other letting us know them. And then it makes it harder for the pastor to proactively set a vision that can bring everyone together if they're just coming to mass and then leaving immediately after mass, for example. It's like, well, I kind of know you. You kind of react to my homilies somewhat positively sometimes. So like, I guess this message is landing, but I would never know because like it's hard to get further feedback if you're not around.
You smile politely after mass, we shake hands, and then you're gone as
Yeah.
the next moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real. Yes, and that's the I think sometimes I think it's where kind of the rubber really meets the road there, is in that building of trust is where, even where the pastor might have initially have said no, say he's, particular proclivities one way or something.
Mhm.
Well, because he trusts this person, he might say yes, And so just to stick with that example of the, environmental forward pastor with the devout, parishioner, is, you volunteer at Father's gardening group, for the local garden for enough time. And then you ask for your rosary. He might say, okay, like he knows you, now you have a name and a face and a story, and he knows that you care. And why? Because you've shown that you care about the things that he himself cares about. And now he's willing to care about what you care about. And that's often how these things form, And there's a real gift to that. And I think that's it helps us to remember that a church is not like we mentioned, like a community. It's not a service being offered. It's not a supermarket. And we kind of owe it to that community to stay within it and to express our desires. And that's, even canon law says, the laity have a right to express their desires, especially spiritual ones, to their pastor. And you probably experience this. I know I've seen that in parishes especially with the young people. Especially, it tends to be a strong conservative movement, right? To say towards traditional liturgy, but they're not seeing it, and then they're gone. And the sad truth is if all those people leave, then the only people who are still there are those who say want the liturgy as exactly the way that they see it currently being done, which might be lacking and often is lacking some degree of reverence and that extra bits of, well, piety and devotion, which I think we rightly want to see more of. And yeah, that's something that I've noticed even as in the community of it's tough to make changes for some of those things because the vocal feedback is often, whoa, whoa, whoa. But if you're also hearing the feedback, which is, yes, we want to see more of that, it's very helpful.
When I think it's also a good example of why the relationship is so important.
Yeah.
So I've been with the Coptic Catholics nearby fairly recently. It's really interesting because like they sing everything, but it's not just like they sing everything of the Mass, but they themselves as the people are singing all their parts all the time, and they're just like going for it. But they're like fully involved. They're fully in it. They know one another. They have their relationships, and so they're willing to put in the work for how long this liturgy is going to be, because like it's theirs. Like they know one another. So often, then when we want to say become more involved in, I don't know, like the choir at the parish, or we want to like we would like to see certain kind of more devotional or other kind of like expressive ways of in the liturgy. But we don't necessarily have a relationship with our parishioners. We don't necessarily have a relationship with the pastor. And so it's like, this actually might be a good impulse of where you want this to go. But if you're not involved enough in the community, it just comes across as if you're an outsider saying we're wrong and like we need a change, which is also part of the tension, right? If the pastor wants to start changing things as well, like, do you know us well enough, or like, are you the shepherd or are you a hired hand? Like, where do we sit on this? And when it's known that like, well, no, actually, it's not because I just think you all are wrong or are like a bunch of heretics because you like this hymnal versus another hymnal. It's like, well, no, actually, I can see some good here, and I love you because I love you. I want what's good for you, and I think that this is good, so we can. Even if the conversation doesn't necessarily arrive at a mutual place because it's done in love, sides, it's easier to disagree in love without breaking a relationship than when you think the other's contrary against you. And there's so many things like in the liturgy where like, well, if we had a relationship, this could have gone so much more, but we didn't have that level of trust for these things. That comes up with any number of other, like, yeah, or gardening group. Well, why do we have it? Like, okay, but chill. Do you know them?
Yeah.
Have you entered into a relationship with them before we impute any number of motives as like we can throw so quickly on one another on either side? Like, well, yeah, but they're here, right? Compared to any number of us that have left and aren't even here, like at least we're here together and at least showing up. That's already saying a whole lot more than any number of places. Like,
no, it really is.
Let's have that relationship first that we're here.
I think it might be a good time to start getting into some of the practicals now. We've laid out that our laity, that's the people in the pews, they have a certain freedom as well as a responsibility to kind of lean into and take part in and share their gifts and talents with the parish. The pastor has a responsibility to kind of see, guide, and call forth those things among the people, as well as kind of coordinate those efforts. And what's part of that is one, that divine gift rooted in baptism, rooted in the ordination of the priest, but then also then the human thing of just building trust. This is a human community, and things are done in the human way. And so often that involves, and so then, like, how do we build trust then? We already said a few of those things, but one is be willing to serve before you lead. I think it's a big one. Sometimes you jump in and think, Father, I got this idea. This is what I want to run with. I'm like, dude, I don't know you. So I'm not going to give you in charge of the Bible study, but the Bible study is a good idea. And sometimes it's, you want to start a men's group or something. Well, okay. Again, I don't know you. But how do we build trust is, by taking part. what is being offered, jumping into that.
Mhm.
But it's also that willingness to go the extra mile. If you hear they're having a parish barbecue or something like that, are you signing up for things?
Mhm.
Are you showing up for, say, the rosary? So I know that I start to see your face around places.
Mhm.
Are you setting up before and cleaning up after? Are you trying to get to know the
Mhm.
people in the parish?
Mhm.
And that helps to show if, all right, this person's committed, they want to be a part of this. So that willingness to serve, and then be willing then to lead then when asked or when you have that desire to.
Mhm.
Now, I think it's good to get into questions like, all right, what types of ministries? What are some of the ways for somebody to say, yes, I want to get involved, but they've just never actually thought about this?
Mhm.
You want to kick us off with like, what are some possible avenues of approach?
Take the garbage out.
Say more.
Right. Practically speaking, because when I look at my life, the kind of things that I did that really helped to integrate me into my parish communities or into like the campus ministry communities in college. Um, like, yeah, all right. So the Bible study, right? You go to the Bible study, you go to the different things, but really, like, it's amazing after the fact, looking back of how important it was setting up tables, tearing tables down, being there for the setup and tear down afterwards. Because when I had ownership of the community, and so like I'm actually part of this. This is a thing. I know I can do stuff, and so I'm here and I'm giving that. And so there's a very concrete, like, yeah, Father, I will take the garbage out for you. I will help clean up. I'll help do these sort of things. I got to know so many people when I was in high school with the Knights of Columbus, with my dad and the other guys in the parish, like getting to know other like men in the parish by helping with those things. In college, same thing. Or just there's a set group of people, and honestly, a set group, like there's the group of like, yeah, we go and we do this. We help set up, we help clean up, we do these sort of things. Um, and it gave ownership. It wasn't like a formal, I'm now a card carrying member of the garbage club, right? But that was such a like grounding place that then naturally led into like Bible studies or led into the retreats or led into, well, we think of ministries, we like use the word ministry. But I think like a very practical is like what needs to be done physically around the parish. And when they're looking for volunteers or even like volunteering, like, hey, Father, I've noticed there's some trash that has been collecting up around the property because like it's after winter now and now we're seeing everything coming out of the snow. Do you mind if I go and just take a garbage bag and clean it up?
No pastor is ever going to say no.
Yeah, right. None of them are going to say no. But it's also nice to hear like, oh, they're not only see a problem, they're saying they're going to do a problem, and they're but also not going through and because we've is it the example of a person in Spain. There's a famous image who like I see a problem, the painting needs to be restored and went in and restored it themselves, and it wasn't a great restoration. They had to undo the restoration and then properly restore it. Right? They're like, yeah,
probably.
no pastor's going to say no to like, okay, cleaning up, but like, there's like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I recognize the problem. I'm going to do it, but I'm also letting you know in advance just in case, right? Any number of things like just don't know. I know you're not going to say no if there's no problem with it, but I'm showing like I am part of this community. I'm not a freelance person just showing and cleaning up and doing something. Like see a problem, volunteer to be a solution to that, like concrete, like maintenance kind of thing, and like just doing it.
Yeah, I'd say the least favorite parishioners are those who always point out problems. The favorite parishioners are those who then also point out solutions or offer to be the solution.
Yeah, offer to be the solution. Because people will give you a solution
Yeah,
to the
right.
problem they
You're
pointed
right.
up. Like offer to be the solution.
Be the solution. It's like, thank you. Please go do that. And that's a big thing there. Yeah, I think of my parents were very involved in our parish, and they were building like a new church when I was growing up, and so they were, they still talk about manning the stilts and working the backhoe and all that. My mom would talk about that, but I think of myself of like, yeah, teaching CCD. I did that as a teenager, and it's you kind of just jump into it, and so you find opportunities to get involved in that way. I was also worked maintenance, and so I was kind of very familiar with taking out the trash, and you just kind of you start to see all the little operations that happen, and Knights of Columbus dinners, and you just what I want to say here is those small moments which, yeah, maybe it's taking out the trash, looking for ways to volunteer that just need to be done, and being willing to jump in and do it.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's like recognizing, like, yeah, if you're a teacher or you work with kids, it's like, yeah, is there anything like that? Is there a CCD program that needs teachers or teachers aides that you can jump in with? Is there any desire for a daycare? I know, like, that's one of the things I'm thinking about trying to start is there space for a daycare? And all right, you have that skill set and the time. Hey, maybe you want to just voice that, and maybe we can find a way. I think also of like some we have men's and women's groups in the parish, and so sometimes it's people like, hey, I'm new to town, I'm just looking for some way to get involved. Like, what's the desire there? It's to develop some sense of community. And I think sometimes we lose the fact of the parish is that community sense of, in the human way of people getting together. What's it bringing together is the faith. And you have more experience of this in your college but we had a bit in our own of just like, in seminary, that's where I went. And they didn't have to kind of get on us too much about, building community with the guys, because we were pretty good. Like every Friday or Saturday, it's like, all right, what are we doing? Let's get a movie day going. Let's do a movie marathon, or let's play board games, or hey guys, let's go into the city. And it kind of cultivated that in an informal way, which then felt very real. Like we were making friends. And that was so different from the, when the seminary rector would be like, all right, guys, today it's an in-house weekend. Everybody's in, and now we're going to go have, it felt like forced fun. Like, now we're all going to watch a movie, this movie. Okay, sure, thanks, versus the stuff we do together. And so I think some of that too of building those kind of little informal things that just bring people together. And because like, what is uniting you? The fact that you are from the same parish. And
well, that's not, I think people, now it depends on just the people that are available in your parish. But I think the informal social is something really helpful. When I was in college, we had, I think it was like a monthly bacon night where we would just, I think it was, everyone had to contribute a package of bacon. And then bacon was cooked in many different ways. Lattices were produced, all sorts of things, right? It's a bunch of college kids just having fun in their kitchen with bacon. But why was this particular group together? Because we were Catholic. Yeah. Now, a random person walking in wouldn't necessarily realize that we were Catholic. Like, not that we're acting like immorally or anything, but just we weren't like, now we're going to have someone praying in the corner to make known that this is a religious thing, as another person is manning the like bacon stations.
No one's swinging incense while bacon's being cooked.
No, you didn't need to, because the bacon was giving off the aroma. But we just had so many of these sort of things like impromptu in our apartments where like we are intentionally making friendships with other Catholics that then founded all the other sort of things. Then it was like, okay, after all the baking things were done and things were cleaned up, so I would be like, okay, a bunch of the guys, we were then talking about vocations, like how do you actually pray about these sort of things, and then facilitated the other deeper conversations that then made so many other things natural. And then you went to mass on Sunday and you did all like the formal stuff at the church, at the parish, so to say. But that was just like an extension of everything else that was going on. It wasn't just the one thing we do on Sunday. It then became like, this is our life. Like, you hang out with other Catholics. When I was talking to a young woman, was on a young mother in particular, was looking to do like a mother's group sort of thing. And I'm like, well, do you have any other young mothers in your parish? And like, well, yeah, there's like a couple. I'm like, okay, great. You've already been identified and feel like, just go talk to them. You guys figure out like what's going to make sense with you and your kids and like, and all these sort of things, what makes sense for you guys. But, talk to them and like have tea one afternoon. Just make it normal to associate with other Catholics, whatever that makes sense in there. Now, That might mean you have to change. You can't just always go to the 10 o'clock mass. Maybe you have to go to the noon or the 8 o'clock and kind of see like who are at the other masses to get an idea around. That's also another better thing. You see the fuller community of actually who's there. If we only ever go to one mass, but like socialize with one another after mass. Like my previous parish, there's a whole group that went to the local diner. And if you went there after the 10 o'clock mass, it was just like a sea of parishioners because it was just a thing. After this particular mass, you go to the diner and you see one another. Like it's just a part of the community was getting together with one another outside of the church.
No, that's so good. That's one of the things, 2 stories. I think one is, I was talking with some guys after mass and they were saying, Father, we're talking at dinner the other day, which is a great way. It's like, awesome. Yes. Multiple people together talking about these things. Because again, what happens, ideas start to come about. Why? Because you're part of this community and you're going to talk about the community. And, we got our 200th anniversary coming up in a couple of years. And we heard that there's this bell there. Can we ring this bell? And I'm like, yeah, sure, of course. I just wouldn't have thought of it. But when you get people together, just kind of chit-chatting about stuff, well, those things start to come up and then new ideas start to formulate, And that's what allows, like bacon parties, that idea comes about, people kind of talking like, what can we do that'll be fun? And sometimes that's enough. But there's also something very beautiful too of one of the things I like at this parish here is when they have weddings, a lot of young people, so they get married. Oftentimes then after the wedding, after the, you take throw the rice or whatever it is, throw rice, you blow bubbles. After the blow bubbles, then right before everyone's going to the reception, often like they'll meet up at a local bar. Okay. And to just be able to like, we're all just praying together. And like these weddings, like they are praying, praising God. It's a whole thing. It's very involved. Everyone knows all the response. It's beautiful. All right, now we're going to go have a drink together. And now you're just talking about life and just, and you're always like, yes, this is just part of the fabric of the thing, the devotion as well as then the fun. And I think that's a good thing. So like, what is this an encouragement to invite people you see at the parish to go do social things, but also if you're invited, go.
Yeah.
And also a thing too of like we have a men's group that meets, a couple times a week or a couple times a month. And sometimes you see those things advertised in the bulletin, you think like, whatever. Knights of Columbus, if you're a guy, maybe the Columbiettes or some kind of mom's group or something. It's like, check it out, give it a shot. Because then you don't know what these people are like. And I remember even, my stories are all from seminary because that's where I grew up. And
I grew up in seminary.
What is it like Samuel, raised in the temple.
Yeah.
But I remember like my first week there, I'm like, who are these losers that are all going to college seminary? What dorks? Like, gosh, I'm gonna have to tolerate this.
See mirror.
Right, yeah, exactly, yeah. But then once you start talking, like, oh, they're actually just like me. It's like, oh, great, we're all dorks, But you start to like find common ground and you make friends. And sometimes you see the people in the pews and you're like, who are these guys? Who's going to church? Who are these people? Then you actually start to go to the events. You start to talk with them like, oh, okay. And it brings a certain joy, but then also gives the opportunity to go deeper. And I think that's something. And this is where I think, just to kind of finish this point off of, the social as well as the prayer. Yes, get involved in those things that maybe even when it be initially drawn to, because you might find and learn something you didn't know. But like for those who do have like the real background and capacity, like I think of all like the focus missionaries who are now in parishes, or like, the SPO missionaries, all those who are like now they're leaving that time of like strong structure of the college faith life. It's like, well, now maybe it does mean trying to start up a Bible study or maybe find one that's happening and to kind of pursue things of that nature too.
Be real leaven in the communities that you're going into. Like the gift that you had received and like in all that formation isn't just there. Or wasn't just for the time when you're in college.
Yeah.
I think that also applies to all the many professionals. Right?
Yeah, say more.
They have particular, so you can think, you have a finance council. It is beneficial for the people that are skilled in matters of finance and law to make themselves available to you.
That is so true. That is so true. Just to echo that of like being at a parish, I'm like, I had the same finance council for so many years. I don't know who's involved in finance. If some guys tells me that they are, it's like, please.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of those things too. If they, yeah, that is your background, you have a law degree, you have a finance degree, or like, just that, like that's what your life has been, accounting.
Mm-hmm.
But even things like business and project management and
Yeah.
building management is like,
Yeah.
those skill sets are so helpful because so much of what the parish has to deal with are those things, and the pastor doesn't know that. He's not skilled in those things, rightly so. But yeah, to make those skill sets known is such an asset. And you do that over dinner, you do that while you're, cleaning up after the event. You do that, to kind of be a known person, but to also like, hey, you have this skill set, which can really bless the parish.
Yeah.
And yeah. Remove the gray hairs from your pastor so he has to stress less because he can.
Well, and I think there's a degree, right? Because you'll see the surveys where the people want their pastors and their vicars, their priests, to be prayerful men, to be men knowledgeable of the matters of the truths of our religion. They want them to be good preachers and have the time to prepare for preaching. They want them to be men that are going to be providing spiritual formation opportunities, which takes a lot of time. Like, to prepare a very good homily takes a lot of time. My homily last night, I did it once. I'm like, this just is not good. I spent another 2 hours working on trying to like, okay, well, what is savable? What's not, like, and all that just amount of work for a homily. Then I gave one more time. Like, these things just take a lot of time. If you have the ability to like answer all those things, so I don't have to then become re-specialized in contract law and being now like, yes, we have to have wisdom to be able to have like a smell test, to have a kind of a sense on these things, so we can complement the people that are helping us. But if you have those particular specialized gifts, that actually enables the priest to do what the people, generally speaking, want us to do. It makes it easier for us to lean into the pastoring part and setting the spiritual vision of where we're going as a community when you come forward and provide those gifts to us and like to the community more broadly, because it enables so much more to happen. It's like, yeah, you're actually really great in the local contract law and you understand the building codes for our very particular town, and they're actually very weird on this very particular thing. Yes, in some ways you almost have an obligation to give that back to your parish, to enable them to do any number of the things that they need to do.
Well, that's it. We have a guy, Lou, in our parish, and Lou he ran a successful construction company in the city for many years and since retired. And now what he does is he's involved at our church as well as another one, and he's always running these projects for all the construction things that need doing. Why? Because he knows all of the companies, he knows the people in play, he knows the engineers and the steps that are involved in getting these approvals and those sorts of things. And he's just happy to like to lend those skills, which allows us to like, well, what allows us to be able to grow, in a concrete kind of way. Things fall apart. That's how it goes. But I can count on him. I know Lou's going to take care of it, which allows me to not have that headache. I talk to other pastors who are always stressing about these things. I'm like, I got good people. I got a guy.
I call him. He takes care of it.
I got a guy. I get an email. He says, hey, this is done. I'm like, great. You're awesome. And it's stuff like that, which maybe it seems less impressive. And, maybe a fear there might be like, oh, it's more of the same thing. Maybe from the church, something different. But I can only speak secondhand. But it seems as though when you're doing something like that for the sake of the church, it feels like a different kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say try not to make that the only way you serve, right? Like to also make sure you're present and around and part of the community. Then it feels like you're actually part of it. But it's to know like, yeah, any of those skill sets, even though it seems as far from the church as you can get, it's like actually no. I think we even have police officers, and one of the guys, he's a regular and he'll stand in the back, and I like the fact that he's in uniform, just gives a sense of security. We need that. But then there's another one who works kind of more inside the department, and when there's things that need, traffic things blocked off, it's like I call her, I know she's got it taken care of. And those things all help the parish to run.
Yeah. Well, and yes, it's very true that like the dignity of work, and in theory, we can find Christ in all of our labors, and it's a particular gift of the laity is like animating in the workplace,
Right.
animating in there. But there's also a very real degree where parishes are a growing, complex, not growing, they have become a complex environment.
Yeah.
Right. Between the IT infrastructure, social media, communications, facilities, legal, all these sort of things that we do genuinely want to be involved in. They're like, okay, yeah, so you work in marketing. Well, for whatever tensions you may have there, you have skills and now you can put in directly in the service of Christ.
Yeah.
Or like, yes, that might just be like, I got to check in and I got to do my work, but there's a degree of this work I actually do enjoy. I can see like a way like leading to my like flourishing as a human. So maybe I actually can be helpful putting together like good, slick, like brochures and marketing material for our events, or running the flock notes so we can get like really good communications to the people on what's going on in the parish. Or like,
So true.
hey, I'm an IT professional. Like, what's your networking stuff like? What is your all these sort of things? Like, how can I maybe help you so that way someone doesn't accidentally hack into pastor's email and now is sending out emails from his account on getting gift cards for any number of things. Like, there are any number of skills now, like in the parish, that actually is needed. Like anything a small to medium sized business needs, a parish needs.
It's so true. Like, it is a growingly complex thing, but it grows with the capacities of the people. I think that's kind of it is. Yeah, back in the day when everybody's a farmer and maybe there's a blacksmith in town or something, like, yeah, the parish was pretty simple and the priest kind of did his thing and the kids would come in, whatever, like to get educated. But like, what else do you have? Maybe in the elderly would have some kind of, he'd go out to them. But now when the parish is not made up of farmers, but it's made up of all these different types of professionals, it's like, yeah, the world is much more complex too, because it's made up of those types of people. And so when your parish council can be made up of folks who have an IT background and a marketing background and, all these other things, now when you're planning your political background, it's like, when you're planning your parish festival, you can have, the one guy make the Google form, whatever, in complex ways. And we did something like this recently with, we wanted to do a kind of a ministry fair. And one of the guys on my pastoral council, he's an IT expert. And so he creates this whole questionnaire thing, would send out a QR code and people could fill it out. And then it would sort them into the different ministries. Like, oh, you're interested? Okay, check this out, and QR codes for all these things. And it was like, I'd never thought of that,
Yeah.
But now it allows it to be like, oh, everyone's doing this already. They know how to do this. They're used to that because that's how the world is. And they have the skill set already here to do that. And why is that guy even on the parish council? Because, him and his wife had started an after Sunday Mass, Sunday Cafe Bible study where they would just buy donuts and talk about the Sunday readings with anybody who wanted to come.
Yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me? That's awesome. And so because they had that, then they're in the space to then do this, which is a lot of things to even grow even more. And yeah, so yeah, if you have a marketing background or something like that, and you go on your parish website and you're like, this could use work.
Yep.
Don't point it out. Come in and help out,
Yeah, right. Start by helping to take the garbage out first.
Yeah.
Start by getting to know other people, like assuming you don't already, but like make yourself part of the community.
Yeah.
And then like once Father actually knows you by name, like, hey, Father, I've noticed these things. I have like these particular backgrounds. Like, who's the person currently managing it? Like, I'd love to volunteer my time to maybe help coordinate with them, run some ideas past them. Right? If you're in marketing, you know how to sell a thing, but right, just like communicate in like, I'm already known. I've been around. I know the community. I care about the community. I think there's a way I could plug into this thing now. Like, who's helping with this? And when Father says, actually, no one, it's the secretary. Like, oh, great. Well, maybe I can meet with them. Right? Maybe it's like a broader conversation now. Like Father May's been wanting to do this, but had no idea how to approach it.
No, it's so true. Just to give one more story, I got invited over to a family's house for dinner, and of course the conversation, brought up like, she really likes parish bulletins, and notices where she goes, and then it's like, by the way, I noticed ours could use a little work. It's like, okay, and she goes, I'm happy to do it. I can do it all on Canva. I can make it quicker, faster, all this sorts of things. I don't know who's doing it now. And I was like, I know who's doing it now. It's our, one of our overworked, administrative assistants. And she probably would welcome it. And this person, knew where she was involved. And I was like, can we put you guys in contact? And sure enough, kind of coordinated that. And now she's doing the bulletin. And it's like, you just took work off of somebody's plate to then help out, like just out the goodness of your heart, and you're good at it. It's like, yes, that's huge. So stuff like that goes a long way.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, no faster way to the pastor's heart than inviting him for dinner.
Well, that's probably a good place to stop. Obviously, we didn't answer all the questions, right? This gets so particular in it, but I think there's a lot of good things in there where someone who's really trying to look to go deeper, they can apply many of those things and find the different gifts, the different things that they have for that. So until next time, God bless everyone.